back, everybody, to our second matchup here on our very first day of the Six Invitational group stages. We're going to be tuning in to two unlikely foes, but the type of thing that comes together when you have an international event such as the Invitational. BDS is going to be going up against Wildcard. It's a French team up against an Australian team they've never met before, so this will be an interesting matchup on just the second international LAN event that Wildcard has played at.
Yeah, there are a lot of experience, of course, when you compare it to what you've got on BDS with some old veterans on that team. But, you know, you got to start somewhere, and this is probably the best place to start. So, these two teams, where are they in their respective regions? Well, actually, both of them are kind of in the middle of their pack right now. Wildcard is somewhere sitting around 4th, 5th in ANZ, and BDS is also in a similar position. Neither of these teams are currently storming the tops of the charts, but that's why it's going to be so interesting to watch. Absolutely. So we'll take a look at Wildcard's roster here. It's Etho, Imran, Diesel, Dupree, and Neofighter. So, yeah, it's been an interesting, as you said, season for Wildcard, sitting around middle, but they're here, and that's all that really matters. They're going to be able to put up the best show that they can. One thing to note about Wildcard is that they don't make a lot of roster changes, really. I think Neofighter was the most recent change they made, and that was pretty far back. It's a consistent roster, consistent team in that respect, and will give them some sense of stability, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know how they're going to be able to fare at this level, of course. You know, I actually got to talk to these guys, and even they recognize from their stance, it's just, yeah, we're a dark horse team. Nobody really is certain. But that's, again, that's what these events are for. That's what we're here for. Of course, in the group stages, a lot of things are going to be determined as to where everyone's going to be in the playoffs, or whether or not they're even going to make it to the playoffs. This Wildcard squad has lived in the shadow of Fnatic in the ANZ region for so long, and their opponents are BDS Esport. Now, this is a team that comes in originally from Challenger League just a couple seasons ago, and their star player has almost always been Shaiko, but the man that's leading the charge on the team happens to be Renshiro. He's had a deceptively quiet season, but he's been racking it up. He sits at the best KD, he plays largely support roles, he does his job, and he gets kills. To put it in the words of a North American pro, when they battled the old Millennium team, when Renshiro was on it, that guy just doesn't miss. Alems, RXWD, and Rafal will be the final members of this squad rounding it out. Now, obviously, the big name on the team is going to be the gentleman at the very far back left of your screen, Shaiko, one of the most infamous and notorious players in the Rainbow Six Siege scene. It's going to be his first big international LAN event. Their only real experience prior to this comes in DreamHack Montreal. They came in through the qualifiers, they toppled Alems' old team, Team Secret, and now they find themselves going up against Wildcard. But before we get into the match, let's hear from the two teams.
I'm Alems. My role is support flex for Team BDS.
I am Durpin. I play a supportive role for Wildcard. We qualified for the Six Invitational after finishing second in the APAC Season 10 finals alongside Aerowolf, who are now called Giants.
In the team there is no changes recently. Everything's still the same. I just joined the team recently and fit the roles they needed.
We have had no recent role changes or roster changes in this team. Our first split of the ANZ Pro League has not been up to our standards. We are currently 4th, but for now we have to put that behind us because we are at the Invitationals and we are here to try and prove to ourselves that we still have it.
We are a pretty aggressive team. We work together very well, so I think we are in good state.
Our group consists of BDS, Reciprocity, and the current world champions, G2. I think the team to watch out for in our group is 100% G2. They are still currently the world champions after winning the last Six Invitational. And despite only being invited to this Six Invitational and only just recently making a roster change, I still believe they will come here and show their full potential.
In the group, I think the competitors are all three teams. They are all three talented teams. If they are here, there is a reason, and we will not underestimate them.
If I had to choose a player in this group to watch, it would have to be Shaiko. The man is insane. He has insane confidence in himself to take every gunfight and win it.
Our first matchup is against Wildcard.
We play BDS up first, and I guess we had to deal with Shaiko firsthand.
Yeah, I have a message from our opponents. I would say good luck and have fun.
The last time we played in an international tournament, we almost beat the current Pro League champions Na'Vi with a few rounds to spare. And I believe this time we'll cross that line and win our first international.
Two well-spoken gentlemen giving their takes on each other, and I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty heading into this match. BDS has never played a major international event before. DreamHack Montreal was the closest they got. It's a minor, it has an open system. Some people will argue that certain teams use it as a means of testing out new strategies, testing out new roles, etc., and seeing what sticks and getting very vital LAN experience. It's definitely not the same pressure cooker in Montreal that we see at the Six Invitational. Same location, very different vibes. And then, of course, Wildcard, Derpy put it correctly. They almost knocked out Na'Vi in one of the most exciting matches that we saw in Tokonami. Of course, you and I got to watch that because we weren't casting it, but here's the tale of the tapes.
So Diesel and Renshiro, both support players, and both of these players put up a lot of kills aside from being support players. As you can see, especially on the side of Renshiro, he is one of the better players on BDS statistically, and he's been putting up a really great showing in recent times. And that is despite being in that support position. Diesel the same, being a support player, still putting up quite a lot of frags. And this is a really interesting comparison because you've got some big stars in here, especially, of course, Shaiko, who stands out as like a fragger, who I think people expect to be in this head-to-head, but I think in this case, Renshiro really earned the spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at a player like Diesel, he's cut very much from the same cloth as Kendrew, who's just playing in the Na'Vi matchup. He can frag exceptionally well, he plays aggressively. The team has a more active role for support players rather than, say, a team like TSM, where Pojo Man is not really getting involved in any kind of engagements, as we just saw in the matchup previously. Bring up the map veto system here, and there's a lot of uncertainty in this matchup, I mentioned that, but that also extends to the map ban phase. Clubhouse, Bank, and Consulate will be the three places that we will play on. We'll start on Clubhouse with it being Wildcard's pick. Obviously a very defender-sided map, with Bank being relatively even and Consulate being even as well. So you don't really have that advantage that comes with whether you start on attack or defense. That'll be something to keep mind of as these two teams go against each other.
So, we know where we're going to be playing. We will start off on the map that we ended the last match on, that is Clubhouse. We have Bank and Consulate. It's quite an interesting lineup there. Two repeats from last one, and Bank as well thrown in the middle there. Quite looking forward to seeing how this one plays out, that's for sure. But starting on Clubhouse, I think that it's probably going to be whoever picked that is probably going to lose out the side, as we, of course, when you pick a map, the other team gets to pick the side they start on, so I'm guessing that we'll have defense picked for that one.
So we'll get things started with our very first map between these two teams, and we will load on in to Clubhouse. Wildcard Gaming, all the way from down under, Australia, joining us against the French squad all the way from Europe. First ban is going to go to BDS. They'll start on Clubhouse on defense, an advantageous spot for BDS to be on. They can build an awful lot of momentum off of this.
So ban phase begins. BDS gets to ban first because they are on defense. See who they get rid of. Taking a lot of time to think about it. And is that deliberate?
That is...
It couldn't be deliberate.
I am being told that it might not be deliberate, and given that the game clock is frozen, I would imagine that there is something going on there, but we'll see. We'll wait for further instruction.
Yep. So we're going to wait, as Parker said, until we know what's going on there. I'm not entirely sure of the situation, of course, because we're looking at the same thing you guys are looking at here, so that's about the information that we have. Maybe a problem with the ban phase, or maybe they weren't ready to ban, or something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure what happened. What we do know is that we're on pause right now until we figure out what's going to happen next. But that could be really bad for BDS if it was on their side. Then it would probably go through, and then that's the admin's call, of course. But if it was just BDS, nobody selecting anything, then that is going to be on them, I would imagine.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like I said, we can only speculate.
Well, we'll wait and see. A reminder to you that there is another stream that is going on the main channel that you watch, twitch.tv/Rainbow6. You're welcome to go head on over there, buy a second computer, buy a second television, buy a second phone or a tablet, or, maybe just use a multi-Twitch or multiple browsers and watch that matchup. Reciprocity versus G2 is next on the docket. It'll be casted by Blue and Stokes. There's obviously a lot on the line for both of those teams. Rec giving an outstanding performance in Tokonami. They made a couple roster changes, maybe not exactly what they wanted in terms of who they got or when they made those moves, with the Skies departing the team, going on over to Dark Zero, but grabbing Vertical as a massive opportunity for them as he had departed that Rogue roster that had been relegated out of North America. Going up against G2, who have stumbled, and it's a very obvious fall from glory, but they're still one of the top teams right now in Europe, and well, they've obviously got some things to work out, but they always seem to have some magic at this event, and especially on LAN. So feel free to head on over there too to watch, and watch both of them at the same time.
Could do. For now, we just wait to figure out what the decision is for this matchup, what the decision is from the admins, whether we're going to be getting a rehost, what the actual overall deal of the match is. What we do know is that we're going to be continuing to wait for everything to be just perfect before we actually start this matchup. That's perfectly fine and good. We've had a lot of fast matches so far today. Of course, the one we watched earlier went a little bit more quickly than I think many anticipated, despite going to the third map.
Not quick enough for lunch break, though.
Yeah, not quick enough for.
Not quick enough to get access to the catering.
I luckily didn't have to do something in the break, so I got
Sure.
to eat, but Parker couldn't.
Yes, I had to. There were interviews to be had.
Yeah.
So
He had his scarfing food down.
this is also a perfect opportunity to remind everybody that if you want to help with our Six Invitational prize pool, that you are welcome to participate.
Yeah.
Currently, the prize pool is listed at $2.5 million, but the push to the full $3 million for these teams is still very much within reach. There is a Battle Pass in the game. 30% of all of the Premium Battle Pass proceeds are returned to the prize pool. Additionally, you see proceeds from the Pro League sets and the pilot program. So if you happen to want to earn custom in-game exclusives, charms, operator uniforms, headgear, and even that really nice universal gun skin, the Premium Pass is available for you. And like we said, 30% of that proceeds are returned to the esports prize pool to help fund the Six Invitational prize pool for all of these teams.
As Parker said earlier, that's the way we're going to get to that $3 million if we do. So make sure you go out and support these players by purchasing the Battle Pass if you haven't already, or if you haven't earned them already. That's up to you, and only do it, of course, if you have the means. But we are still just waiting for this to start, really. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say. Seems like the players are just as anxious to go as we are, as they're just waiting to jump into this match. Of course, map number 1 will be Clubhouse when we get to it. I can say that we do have everybody in the lobby. We're ready to get going, but of course, double, triple checks have to be pulled out. Everyone has to be 100% sure. I don't know why BDS didn't get a ban in last match, but maybe they weren't ready.
There was some confusion as to who started on what side, from what we are understanding. It is now.
Oh, yeah?
It has now been, I guess, resolved. So
the wrong sides.
Everything should be going according to plan. That's exactly what the rehost is for. Now, another thing that I wanted to touch on too is that UI that has now been debuted, I think is fantastic. I think it is a massive leap and jump over where we were previously. Now, there are a lot of people who might be hardened supporters or ardent supporters of Pro League, or even casual viewers who say that it might be confusing, etc. I mean, take some time to get used to it. This is something where it's a massive overhaul. And yes, there are going to be changes that you may not initially like, but for us, from a casting perspective, I cannot begin to tell you the benefits of this new UI system, what it makes available to you, and how much easier it makes our job, but also the jobs of analysts, the jobs of coaches, and even just the casual viewer who wants to do content, somebody who wants to put together a video about utility usage, etc., etc. So,
I mean, there's so many benefits for sure. The simple fact that we can see everyone's full name, that in of itself is huge. Yeah. In the past, for those of you who don't know, in the past it used to be you could only actively see the 3 first characters of everyone's name. So if you wanted to know who was playing what operator, then you had to be darn sure that there was no one else on that team who had the same first 3 characters. And often, we've seen it in the past where 2 players do have those first 3 characters be the same. So it can cause problems. It's actually the reason why, for those of you wondering, it's the reason why the tag for your team is at the end of your name instead of at the beginning of your name. Because imagine if we were casting and all we knew was that everyone on the attacking side was BDS.
Well, that was actually something that I actually dealt with when I was starting casting. A lot of these amateur lower level teams when I was in the in that tier 4, tier 5 scene, if you want to go that far down, where they would all put their tags in the front of their names, and you would have to literally look at the scoreboard and just be like, all right, who's playing what operator? Because if everybody's first 3 letters are BDS, you're like, oh, who's on Zofia? You don't necessarily know it's a LEMS unless you're watching. You have to keep that in your mind.
Problem solved, says Ubisoft, as they debut this.
I am honestly so thankful for this. This is
so great.
This is, in terms of quality of life change from a casting perspective, this is...
Doesn't get better.
It's very much appreciated, so thank you, Ubisoft.
Maybe it can get better, but for now, this is...
I mean, I'm sure it probably can. This is just, keep in mind, this is the first iteration of it, right? And there's feedback that can be given, I'm sure.
The drones are still a little weird.
That could just be that it's on land.
Maybe it's the land version. What we do know is that, sometimes they can be inconsistent, so keep that in mind when you're watching them. If you see a drone get shot, and you're like, wait a minute, there's no X. That drone was destroyed. What happened?
What the?
Yeah, so... Yeah, like I said, version 1. Now, what we do know is that we are actually in the match. Thank you. We've got it sorted out, and we do have Thatcher unbanned in this matchup. Thermite and Capital were the attacking bans. Echo and Valk on defense, so the IQ is not going to be necessary. You're going to need to bring more soft destruction to destroy the Evil Eyes. Interestingly, we're going to go to Jim first for Wildcard.
All right.
BDS, because of that, are going to focus on the server cache take.
It's a very interesting sight to see get rolled out right away, but I mean, we saw this with TSM actually, choosing to go to the road less traveled, I guess you could call it.
Yeah. It's not necessarily going to cause too many problems, but it is going to slow things down. One thing I will note is that Thermite ban is huge here for Wildcard because, and it was their ban, because it's going to make opening up all these walls that lead to Jim so hard. So maybe the thought process here for Wildcard was, well, Jim has a lot of hard destruction you need to pull out if you want to clear out server. And if you don't clear out server, we'll use server. But if they decide to use the hard destruction route, well, we're going to make it really difficult for them, and that's exactly what Wildcard are doing. Speaking of making it difficult, Neo is going to pick up a LEMS, a long-angle fight all the way into the garage. Lots of hard destruction utilized here for BDS, but they've also lost one of their players, and I think that's most Xcaros. Yeah, 2 Xcaros there, make it 3 as Neo gets his 2nd kill. Most Xcaros are gone. And that means there's only the Maverick in terms of hard destruction. He's going to have to go over to the jacuzzi wall. That's Rafael. And he's trying to make a hole, but it's not a great one.
Some super janky holes that have been put on in here. Down goes Derpy to RXWD. He tosses that one out. We're used to seeing him on support, but Shaiko plays Hibana a lot that it makes sense that Rafael would switch on up. So
yeah,
Wildcard still with the advantage, even though they've lost one.
Here's the thing about putting Shaiko on Hibana. Sometimes Hibana can be a fragger, but when she's your main hard destructor, it can be complicated if you put someone like Shaiko on that role. You got to have someone who's going to be able to utilize that hard destruction perfectly. We do know that Wildcard have done a great job on the roam. Neo picked up 2. He will be felled, but look at the time. Only 30 seconds left. There's really not a lot to work with.
No construction control either, as that's where Diesel is sitting, and down goes Renshiro, a vault in from RXWD, and Rafael now finds himself in a 1v3, going up against the remaining members of Wildcard. There's so many openings that he needs to be wary of the angles that are going to be held from the defenders. He's starved for information, not getting any calls, at least from his team right now, and is just flying as blind as can be. He'll attempt the plant, though. Sound being made, Rafael could hear it, as Wildcard, with extraordinary patience, there's still 3 of them left. It only takes 1. Rafael will not get a single kill before Ethan buries him. And there you have it. Wildcard with round number 1.
Big win there for Wildcard. Most of that comes down to the Thermite ban, actually. That's what allowed that defense to be so solid. Yeah, okay, if you can deny the Electroclaws, ban batteries, mute jammers, what have you, that with your Thatcher, that's all well and good. but if you don't have enough hard destruction to actually get through all of the walls, that makes things really difficult.
Yeah.
The Maverick couldn't fully open up the server wall, so Hibana had to. Then your Hibana can't even take into server because there's a shield and a Neo behind it, all the way at the top of the server stairs. Shield was dealt with, but Neo got 2 kills off that position. And then your cache isn't opened up, which means it's really hard for you as BDS to apply pressure to Workshop and thus the site. So what does that mean? Well, it means if you don't get control of Workshop, which is that room in the middle between cache and the actual bomb site on gym defense. If you don't get control of Workshop, then the defenders can deny you vaulting in from the south balcony, and that means that you're funneled into the west balcony wall, jacuzzi balcony wall. And that wasn't even open. I mean, the whole thing really just wasn't working for BDS. There was so many layers to that attack that just fell flat.
10 seconds left before.
So smart plays from Wildcard as well. And I like their bans in this case. It was well thought out. That'll give them, at the minimum, 2 gym defense wins, probably pretty solidly. See how that works on the rest of these sites. They're going to go to basement next.
After you lose that control and you don't get construction, you have to go just suicide vault through the windows, right? We saw what?
Yeah.
2 members of BDS do that? And
I think so.
Trying to vault in through those windows is just, you are at such an extraordinary disadvantage. There's almost no way you're going to be able to win that, so.
It happens. Sometimes it plays out like that. And to be fair, as much as BDS really didn't have a lot of choices, it was because of Wildcard, so we got to give them credit. Smart plays there.
Yeah.
Basement defense means that BDS is going to be pretty thorough here. They're going to try and clear out the roamers. I'm sure BDS watched the last match we cast on this channel, where we had Clubhouse played, and the roamers were prevalent from both teams. And they're going to be really cautious. You can see they're starting from the top down, and it's working out great for BDS as Lems gets the lead-off kill on the Emorin.
Doug was your Legion, so an operator that is a perpetual nuisance, especially on this site, where he can just coat the stairs and every entryway towards the site with those goo mines will be no more. There's also a soft hatch in blue. So I'm curious to see where all the reinforcements went from Wildcard, because they've left stock open. There's a Guzmat that's going to get triggered by Shaiko. And Neo now almost assuredly know, as long as he heard it, that there's somebody up top. But there might be no follow-up whatsoever. Soft hatch pinged by Shaiko as it's communicated to the rest of his team. Just a simple puff of that blowtorch from a foul will take out the hatch, or just a simple shot from the skeleton key of the Buck. There's no breaches on Alems. He's got a Claymore position, so you don't really need breaches here on this site, and Alems is brought so accordingly.
And go drop open for Rafael. Not even going to tempt fate with those Electroclaws potentially being in play. They aren't, but you got to be careful. Even though the reveal phase is a thing, you got to just be certain. That's a nice angle there from RXWD. I think he actually might have done some damage to Dupree, but I'm not 100% sure. Denying impact tricking, that's for sure, as he shoots through those pre-made holes from the defense. Not a lot of time here for BDS, but they've been very thorough, and they have a solid man advantage, and extended from that, an HP advantage. Ethan and Dupree are both on low HP.
I don't know how RXWD is out of skeleton key ammunition already when most of that floor is fully intact. It must have just been used exclusively in the hallway. There's a kill for Wildcard as they remove Shaiko, one of the best players for BDS, and consistently one of the best players in Europe, is now gone. Plant being attempted by Rafael in default spot under the hatch. It's got RXWD watching from above. Neo takes out Renshiro, but it's traded, and the diffuser goes down, so BDS will have some control, and they'll add another kill for good measure. However, Rafael's been felled. That's the telltale sign of the Alda from Derpe. Diesel with one onto Rafael, that's just cleanup. So RXWD and Alems will now just sit above, waiting very patiently. They've got the angles held. One on the main stairs, which is exactly where the Mozzie is positioned, and Diesel is dead meat. An easy kill for Alems, looking for Derpe. Derpe's only on 1 HP, and RXWD will finish him off. It's one of the most interesting hand slap fist bumps I've ever seen Alems. You gotta work on those. But BDS worked on their attack, and it was much more potent this time. They'll be tied up 1-1.
They won the round. That's the most important thing. Now, it is going to be cash defense next. So Wildcard will keep their rotation going. They're not going to stop on the bottom floor and try that once more. Probably smart. That's a safe bet. Keep your things moving so that you don't actually upset your flow. The big thing with that defense that won a foul is mostly just the fact that BDS was allowed to set up so well. The Roam really didn't accomplish anything. They died, I think, in the first 30 seconds or so. They had that one roamer die, and then Wildcard were like, okay, everybody come back. We're not going to do this anymore. That was really bad for Wildcard, but it was not unrecoverable. That's for sure. They could have bounced back off after that. They didn't. We saw a pretty standard take from BDS. Clear out the roamers, open up the drops, start putting pressure on the site, establish angles to get picks to, I guess, lengthen your advantage, and that's exactly what happened. Nothing really showed from Wildcard to prevent it. They had one C4 kill, I want to say, over by Armory.
Which was on the Shaco.
Yeah, and that was big, but it wasn't definitely not enough to recover. And the biggest thing was that they, of course, didn't have enough to deny the plant, enough utility, that is, to deny the plant. So, we'll go to Cash, see how Wildcard does here.
A lot of the control that BDS was able to establish was just simply that kitchen and hallway. And then they went for a very easy default plant. I mean, you would almost suspect that they would be better positioned in terms of Wildcard to prevent that. This is their map. Like, they've surely dealt with it before. It's a great example of what it looks like when you open up those double panels leading into CCTV. So you buck them first, so the moment that you get Maverick to cut through the bottom and top portion of that wall, well, it's just going to immediately fall away. It's very common for a defender to provoke a fight, maybe look in one direction onto where you'd be hanging. So that's exactly why RXWD is just deciding, hey, let's preemptively get a couple of shots on it. Shaco with the opening pick, though. BDS 2 rounds in a row now where they've just been able to find somebody who's been off-site. In this case, it's Neofighter. Not detrimental that it's a Jaeger, but the ADS is likely already being down, means that his gadget will still persist.
Yeah, speaking of ADSs, one did just catch that nade that would have otherwise killed the player between A and B right now. So great use of that ADS there. Second nade goes in, and I believe it's Diesel who eats a little bit of damage there. Yes, it was Diesel. Oh, that's unfortunate. Punching a drone midair, you know, it happens, but very rarely. I don't think it's going to be too bad, though. BDS doesn't look like they're too starved for drone utility right now. Of course, not really 100% sure on what, that representation of the HUD, of course, but
yeah,
you know, they seem to be fine based on what they were doing right after, which is double droning into Workshop.
Oh my, I don't know what Diesel was doing, but those kind of mistakes are not something that you can allow to have happen. This level, a team kill from Wildcard will put them down one, and then Rin is gone too. Derpe finished off at the top of the garage rafters, with Ethan down below to get a C4 kill. He's got an opening. He sees a Lems. He'll take a beating from the AR, but he'll stick around for now. Still down below. He's got the shotgun. He'll have to stop and go for some denial. And he manages to do it right as Rafal was able to get that plant off. It was the dying seconds. So Ethan managed to get 2 kills for his trouble. Still down below. 3 now onto RXWD. There's somebody above. It's the Thatcher waiting. But are we going to see another bit of heroics? No default plant spot this time, so Ethan will just sit down and wait. Diffuser for BDS, and now they will hold the angles. Let's see if they can do better than Rogue did as Ethan tries to come on back, and he'll get shut down from a Lems who is watching red stairs. And that'll be round number 2 for BDS on a bit of frantic action there at the end, with Ethan doing his best to keep his team in the round.
Yeah, Ethan came pretty close, to be fair, to clutching that out. If he had information on server, he would have been able to deny another plant from below, but because he didn't have that info, he was just guessing with those shotgun blasts. Unfortunate for Wildcard, but very fortunate for BDS, and good play from them as well. Their clear into the site was effective and I'd say really, really quick. That's the big thing. Wildcard didn't put up much of a fight on the actual anchor play, and were felled pretty swiftly. The biggest thing is that we saw a lot of Wildcard exposing themselves rather unnecessarily. For example, the Maestro at the top of garage rafters, exposed to the B window, whether he knew it or not. That's unfortunate. I believe that was Derp. He finds himself with a pretty easy pickoff from the B window. The rest of it was the A take and the lack of a hold there from Wildcard. They lost so many players on that.
Derpe is one of the hard supports for Wildcard, alongside the way that we see Diesel play. So expect both of them to fulfill their role well, and I mean, Diesel makes contributions on the scoreboard. You can't take that away from him. but Derpe tends to play a little bit more conservatively, play a little bit farther back.
Objective is to locate a bomb.
His second crack at cache CCTV now for Wildcard. Didn't go so well in their favor, and Ethan, I think his play at the end to get those 3 kills really masked how much better BDS's execute was than the conventional defense that we saw from Wildcard, especially that early pick on a Neofighter, which almost entombed the rest of Wildcard for that round. There's no way for them to be able to stop the Maverick work on the wall, and I don't know if Wildcard is prepared for that, because the moment that wall fell, Wildcard had nothing really to stop the execute from BDS and the push that came in afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think that Wildcard's going to be able to stop it this time either. That's the big thing. Likely one Evil Eye inside a server to slow things down from Derpy, but I don't know if that's really going to change too much. Shaka with some good flank watch going on here. Outside of the front door, he's not only flank watching, but he's also cutting off control of lounge. That is to say, he's denying C4s from below and denying rotations from the defenders in lounge. That's a really powerful position. Shaco's going to leave it, though, actually, to start applying more pressure to the site, it seems, or maybe rotating over to Workshop to try and open up that wall. There's lots of time left in the round, so BDS don't need to rush themselves or anything here. They can go at this at a leisurely pace. That's exactly what they're doing.
Once again, a move from construction with Shaiko there. 2 walls opened up, and that soft wall at the bottom of logistics, I don't know if that's being held by somebody from Wildcard. BDS with the opening pick, but it's answered back right away. 2, actually, as Derpe barnstorms outside of garage. He'll take down a Lems. Shaiko gets Neofighter, so what was just an opening duel has now turned into a 3v3.
Second time's a charm there. Wall opened up in
all of us.
It does, yeah. Wall opened up inside of Workshop, and that's going to give good line of sight into the A bomb site. So there we go. BDS starting to set up the same way they have in the past. The question is Derpe going to die on the rafters like he did last time? Pretty much for free, because his position there is crucial in that it will cut off the push in through this wall here that Shaiko's trying to go through, and through the A door, and the B window. He's pretty much the linchpin here for Wildcard. So being on low HP is not going to make that easier for Derpe, but he's still got to do a lot here.
Another trade that comes out, but it's on to Renshiro this time as he drags Emorin down with him. Ethan is still in action. That Mozzie can be so critical. Derpe's been isolated and spotted. No way for that Maestro to be able to get out of that. But look who's down below. No C4 though, so the Super Shorty is going to need to be there. Can he open it up? Yes, he does. And he forces Rafael to have to reposition. But there's that one hole being watched from above. And unless you can do something, some kind of magic here, Ethan, you're doomed. It's a fall off from BDS. He spots one, tussles, unable to hit the shots. Looks like it's Shaiko watching the Hibana from above. All the holes that have been opened up by the Maverick, as well as the rest of the defenders, will be the undoing of Ethan. Once again, very weirdly paced the way Ethan is playing this one out. 3 now for BDS. They are absolutely pummeling Wildcard, and this is 3 rounds for an attacking team on Clubhouse.
The really funny and sad thing at the same time is that those 2 cache defenses, when the plant was actually going down, Ethan would open up just the perfectly incorrect bomb site. Or, sorry, not bomb site, but plant spot both times. So he would be opening up between the server and the wall, one of these, and then the plant would be in default next to the bomb. And then he would be opening up between the bomb and garage when the plant side is between the server and the wall. That's really unfortunate. It happens, though. Most of the attack wasn't actually down to that. Ethan shouldn't be in that position where he needs to clutch out like that. Mostly he should be as like a just-in-case situation. The big thing is that what we saw was not a just-in-case situation. It was mostly a, oh heck, the round is already over pretty much, but can I salvage it? Ethan shouldn't be put in that clutch spot so frequently. One big thing that I want to highlight is, again, Derpe's position in rafters. He's not doing his job fully. His job is to cut off the rotation between Workshop and the site. He's not doing that. It's really unfortunate when you see stuff like that happen, but it does happen from time to time.
His sight seemed to be affixed on that opening that was created onto the double panels. So maybe they had decided that he would watch the opening that was created for CCTV instead of that rotation, as you pointed out. But unfortunately, with the runout, with the exception of the runout from Derpe, there really wasn't all that much that was accomplished by him on rafters. You know, obviously BDS are not too interested in pushing him out. They haven't really done all that much to focus on rafters control, and BDS instead have moved over to construction rather than go through the garage. So obviously garage is not going to be that influential when you're attacking Jim, and that's exactly what it is. It's the only successful defense for Wildcard, and it came on this site.
Bomb located by attackers.
There's also an early pick from Wildcard that kind of snowballed everything from there, and construction being held as aggressively as it was by Ethan was massive for Wildcard as a team. Are they going to be able to have that same level of success? Well, if they lose control of construction, they're in for a really rough spot, because then with it, logistics often goes as well. A lot of hatch play as RXWD tries to drone out the member of Wildcard that's playing down in logistics. A flash goes to main stairs. You know that somebody might be able to push on in without worrying about a push up.
Nothing really crazy happening so far. But the control being established here from BDS early on is really awesome, because here's the thing that's happening. BDS realized that the cache clear was ill-advised. It was a bad idea, and rightfully so, because last time they tried to clear a cache, it just took too much time. They didn't have enough hard destruction. We have just entered into the early era of cinematography in some parts of the game, not all of them, interestingly. I guess that's an interesting spectator bug. Never seen that one before. The round will continue to play out, and we'll continue to watch it because we have to. We don't really have a choice. Interesting positioning there from Derpe, as he is going to die pretty easily, or get downed at the very least. There's very little site control right now for Wildcard, and it seems like BDS are going to turn this into full control on the site and with no real recourse for Wildcard. They got a C4 from below, maybe, and that's just about it.
I actually kind of like this.
You know, I mean, I don't hate it.
BDS is in full control, though. Derpe is still down, so it's a 5v2. Looking for a flawless round. He's put out of his misery as Shaiko's inside of the site. Rafal going for the diffuser. Will they be able to get it down for the 4th round in a row? The answer is yes. Shaiko creeping ever so slightly around the corner. The color is back, and with it, it's a flawless round for BDS. Obviously, the round... Oh. Nope, there... Oh.
Goes again.
There it goes again, back to... You don't get to see it, but anywho. It's a flawless round, and almost everything going in favor of BDS. They get the diffuser down. It's flawless. What more could you ask for outside of an ace?
So, of course, if the color doesn't come back when this round starts up, it'll probably be a rehost, but...
In which case, well, you'll just get to see the wonderful...
teams?
The wonderful teams, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that defense going soundly in BDS's favor. Not only flawless, but, I mean, it's pretty quick. And the biggest thing is that there wasn't really any moment where I thought to myself, yeah, Wildcard's going to be able to bring this back. They were relying, once again, too much on the defense, the C4 from below to deny the plant, and I guess a retake strategy maybe was the plan. Also, once again, Derpe leaves himself very exposed, gets picked off pretty much for free from an angle that he's, I guess, not expecting. It's the hallway? I'm not sure why he wouldn't be expecting that. The wall was open. Well, I'm a little bit confused. I'm not sure, like I said.
His positioning has not been ideal here, and it also just could be that maybe he's not accustomed to teams attacking from this direction, right? I mean, that's...
I don't know. Maybe?
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But the stats right now for Wildcard are not particularly strong, and the only real rounds where they've had a fighting chance were because of Ethan at the very final moments pulling out some hero plays, but
Attackers are moving
yeah,
out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
that's really rough. So 4 plants in a row. The attackers are having an absolute ball.
Oh, yeah.
Attackers on Clubhouse. You don't see that every day. Hey, but it will be for the very final defense for Wildcard. On their map, it will be over on Jim and Master. Shaiko will open up one portion of the wall, but it'll be actively bandit tricked. I don't know if he was expecting Emorin to be there.
Well, he was, and that's a set of Excaros dealt with. BDS haven't changed their operator lineup, by the way, this entire match. They've been consistently bringing the same exact attacking set this whole time. And, well, it's been working pretty well for them, to be fair.
Yeah. Same players on the same operators, very Empire-esque, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. We'll see the main server wall get opened up there by Maverick. Looks like he tricked part of it, but I don't know if he got the actual panel open. But he's been called over to do something else, so I think he's just shifting his priorities here. Yeah, he didn't get it open actually. He just put some holes in it. I mean, it's fine, I guess. He'll be prioritizing opening up Jacuzzi wall, is my guess, because Shaiko likely has lost much of his Excaros, if not all.
I think he only used the one on that bandit wall.
Well, you know, the thing is we have a new feature.
Marcio, expand.
There it is.
He's still got 2 of his X-Kairos left.
There you go. So they were just being cautious.
Thank you, Marcio.
Flash is going in through the breach. Nades as well. Flash has to determine there is no ADS. Nades to follow it up to actually, you know, do some work. Second nade going to be used inside of the bathroom. Flashes again to clear ADS. Stuns to disorient. And the nade to get the kill. Great utility dump there from BDS. And out of it, they get emo red.
BDS's ability to get these opening picks are absolutely massive. And with it, obviously, a very strong contender in Wildcard, being humbled by it too. I mean, this definitely doesn't seem like the Wildcard team that showed up at full strength against Na'Vi as Shaiko capitalizes on Derpe looking the wrong way. RXWD with 1, another for Shaiko 2, and they just need to catch the Legion, who gets the down and the finish, denying a flawless round. Neo Fighter will need to pull off the ace as Diffuser goes down yet again. Oh my, things go from bad to worse. Neo looking for 1, but just a little bit too close as Rafal is able to get that kill for BDS, and with it, a 5-1 split for BDS on attack on Clubhouse. That's pretty good.
Solid half there, as you said. So once again, we saw a shift of the way that BDS plays on the gym attack when compared to the first time they played on that gym attack. They put light effort into server and cache this time, and much more effort into the Jacuzzi wall, prioritizing it above all else, because to them it's the most important. If they get the Jacuzzi wall open, it doesn't really seem like Wildcard has much of a defense, to be honest. The way that they're setting up their hold is mostly focused around the cache hold. If they fail to hold cache, then that'd be problematic, but they'd be able to fall back and hold the site on anchor play. But in this case, BDS is just sidestepping cache. I'm like, whatever, we don't care. We're going to attack you through the Jacuzzi wall, and there's nothing you could do about it. And right, this is exactly what's happening. Wildcard had no way to hold that Jacuzzi wall push because they weren't really trying to. They just put up a bunch of reinforcements and kept their distance. Allowed BDS to walk in and start picking up kills. Now, I'm not saying that BDS isn't doing it in an efficient way, like the nade and flash dump into the bathroom, for example. That's really great. That's great. And even for Wildcard, that might be hard to deal with. Maybe repositioning a player, of course, but hard to predict also if it's never happened to you before. The biggest thing is just that, I don't know, there's no actual pressure being applied to that Jacuzzi wall from anywhere from Wildcard. Not the top of stairs, not the gym door, not the office door. It doesn't matter. We're on the second half now. BDS up 5-1. Wildcard are going to have some really amazing attack rounds if they want to have any chance here.
I'm worried for Wildcard in regards to confidence. Obviously they've flown an awful long way to take part in this event, and my bigger worry with Wildcard is that, like I said, they come into today with not the greatest record in ANZ at the moment. They were, last I saw, they were sitting, I believe, in 4th. I'd have to check, but it's not like they're flying high heading into this event. They had a great run against Na'Vi and at Tokonami, and I think that people were expecting a more lopsided match. I don't think anybody had it being even remotely close to what ended up happening. But this has been a blowout so far. I mean, we can't get too ahead of ourselves because, if we were at the same point in time with the Rogue TSM match, well, we would have Rogue taking it 2-0, and that is very far from the actual result. Just a mule kick from Ethan to see if somebody will possibly emerge from the double doorway at the bottom of the main stairs. There goes a Nitro Cell being expended by RXWD. Thank you very much, Marcy. Greatly appreciated. And now more drone work happening. 1.5 minutes. This being a church defense downstairs, it means that it's usually going to be quite slow going for the attackers.
Bomb located by attackers.
There's a lot of things that you need to do, whether it be getting control of those hatches. In this case, a Maverick being on the board means that you don't have to worry too much about an Electric Claw, so a LEMS will be somewhat soft countered, as those hatches will be able to get opened up by Diesel, who was one of the 2 stars of the show today, but really hasn't been showing his prowess. Same with Renshiro. Renshiro has not been as potent as usual.
I mean, it happens sometimes that way. We've seen that actually even earlier today on this very stream. Had some really interesting changes in who's carrying the weight for teams. C4 goes out and misses. Wall opened up here by Wildcard, so it's at least one really good step for Wildcard. They've managed to open that church wall pretty well. They're focusing Diesel, I guess, on the drops, and then using the Habana for the church wall. This is what Wildcard were expecting to need to do. You can tell because, of course, they banned Thermite, so they were prepared for this.
LEMS is going to be the one to stop any push from Moto. He levels Neo, takes some damage at the process. He's got diffuser control inside of Moto as it's dropped. RXWD gets in on the fun. You can hear the TCSG of Rafal going off as both of these guns are in on it. Down goes Derpe, and it looks like it's going to be another flawless round unless something can happen, but no, Diesel unable to put anything together. How about match point for BDS on Wildcard's map with a flawless round? Not bad at all.
Solid defense there for BDS, despite the church wall getting opened up. Pretty surprising how solid that was, actually. I honestly expected that Wildcard was going to be able to leverage more from that wall getting opened, but not the case. We haven't really seen too much from Wildcard so far, or, I mean, much effort being expended from BDS. The way that they're playing, BDS is just, they're executing pretty standard. They made some basic adaptations and adjustments, nothing too crazy. Wildcard got one really good round because they caught BDS guard with the Thermite ban and Gym combination.
Yeah.
BDS went the wrong way. They ended up not having enough heart destruction to get through all the layers, and then BDS learned from that, and the next time they attacked Gym, they just didn't go to cash. And other than that, like, we haven't really seen anything crazy from Wildcard. That last attack round, I actually anticipated going Wildcard's way because of how well they managed to coordinate their heart destruction. They got that church wall open. They applied a lot of pressure to the site, and not much came of it.
It's a bit deflating, I suspect, that you'd feel if you were Wildcard here. I'm not sure exactly what can be said to get them in a position to march back now, especially being on the wrong side of Clubhouse, you know?
Yeah, now they're on the attacking side.
Yeah, that's the bigger issue right now, is that you have an uphill battle just based on the way that we tend to see this map go. And I mean, the good thing is that for Wildcard, you have a much more even contest on Bank, but I mean, it's not even like you lost because you were on the wrong side of the hill. It was just, right now, BDS is out-fragging you exceptionally well and are doing a phenomenal job of being able to shut you down and catch you looking. Wildcard are having a significant issue with losing a lot of gunfights because they're not even engaging with them. They're dying with their back turned to BDS. That is a substantial issue.
So many engagements that aren't even actually engagements. They're just,
yeah.
Oh, I'm not where I should be. I'm on Wildcard, and I happen to be caught off guard. And then BDS win a gunfight to the side or to the back or whatever. I don't really know. I can't really say much other than Wildcard needs to stop letting that happen.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's not exactly something normal. I honestly can say I don't see that very often, where so frequently you have players getting dispatched without having a chance to fight because they're looking the wrong way. I mean, that happens for sure. It just doesn't happen this much usually. It's a rush from Wildcard, and they are using the wild in their name. Diesel's going to get RXWD. Shaika will refrag. There's a back and forth here, but on top is, well, BDS, to be honest, when it comes to the HP. Neo is on very low HP, so he'll be dispatched quite easily. LEMS goes down, though, to Neo, who wins a fight with that 1 HP, regardless of that tally. Renshiro will get Derpe from behind on the staircase. Rafael, still in garage, will get one in the site, leaving just Ethan. And he'll be felled by Rafael. That's it. Map number 1 goes to BDS.
Wildcard, I think at that point, it realized that they needed to go for something that was a little bit less orthodox, and well, why not go for a rush? But just as lopsided as some of the matches, you and I are having a very quick day. By the way.
We are.
I don't know why, but for some reason you and I are having a very quick day. This was Wildcard's map, and a 7-1 where you saw BDS barely break a sweat.
Oh, yep. So this is weird, right? Because I find usually most of my job is to talk about what happened during the match. Not a lot did happen. That first run was kind of interesting. The rest of it has mostly just been, even if Wildcard were trying to put up some kind of strategy or thought to the way they're playing.
Yes.
Not much came of it. And BDS would do basic adaptation to whatever Wildcard puts out. And that's the interesting thing, is that Wildcard were doing a lot of actual change. They were trying to adjust, trying to do different things. You saw there, at the end even, they went for a rush, and none of it worked. And none of it.
I think, look at this. This is just, that's negligence right there that you just see. Like, this is the kind of thing where Wildcard did not seem to understand where BDS was going to come from, and there's another fight where you have your back turned to them. That was an interaction where your back wasn't turned.
This moment too, when in the past.
That's just a straight up gunfight. Lost. Down goes a frag grenade, tons of utility that gets dumped in.
There's another one.
Another fight where somebody from Wildcard has their back turned to BDS, and
then this is just a Lems peeking wide.
Here's another one. There's yet another kill, but to be fair, there the Hibana was engaged with Renshiro. This at least was Rafal engaging at multiple enemies with the Alda, proving that an ACOG isn't necessarily the only reason why people use that weapon. It's obviously still a significant beast in the right hands.
It's got an ammo count or damage or something. Sorry.
You're not Bikini Body. You don't develop this game.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
He's right. Not Bikini Body.
Not Bikini Body. You're not lead developer, so you don't get to make these calls. Okay.
Rate of fire.
That's the way it works. Look. You just need to be a Swedish YouTuber as well. There really isn't that much to talk about when it comes to that game, unfortunately. What do we talk about? BDS looked like they were playing a very standard Clubhouse that you would see them play up against other EU teams. Wildcard seemed utterly lost. And when you look at the way that Wildcard played, like I said, it seemed like almost half of BDS's kills were onto somebody on Wildcard who had their back turned, whether they didn't hear where they were coming from, whether they weren't expecting pushes from that direction. There was nothing I saw BDS do that was particularly innovative. So if you are a coach and you're trying to prep your team for BDS on any of these maps, you have a general consensus of what you're going to ban and what is going to come. Most coaches will be able to call at least 2 of the 3 maps they're going to play on.
Yeah.
You know that if you're going to be going to Clubhouse, which you picked, Wildcard picked this map, they should be prepped for it. And knowing that they're going to go to Clubhouse, they should be prepared for what BDS is going to bring to it. This was very default stuff from BDS. The takes through construction, very, very normal. Not really focusing on garage, also very normal, especially when it was a Capitao was banned. You're usually not going to see a lot of teams stack up that much on garage in that case because they don't have the same tools to flush you out. So if you can go through construction, you're just as good. This is not the Wildcard that we saw in Tokonami. This is not the Wildcard that plays this aggressive style where they actually hit their shots. Na'Vi is a good team with good gunners. Every single person on that team can clutch around in terms of aim. Wildcard was able to duel them very evenly through that entire matchup. But even the worst aimers on BDS were shredding through Wildcard. So I don't know if it's nerves, I don't know if it's lack of preparation. I just genuinely don't have an answer to the question of what went wrong for Wildcard there, but they only have a 5-minute break to be able to sort it out because we now look at Bank with BDS going to their map, their comfort pick. Are we going to have a repeat of our first matchup of the day where the teams won each other's maps? Or are we going to see Wildcard just continue the performance that we saw in map number 1? We'll find out.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned how BDS weren't doing anything other than the standard on Clubhouse, and that was weird because Wildcard was. They were trying to bring out new stuff, and none of it worked. Maverick banned by BDS to start things off. Interesting choice. We'll see what the response is from Wildcard. They are starting on attack, so Wildcard is going to need those hard destructors. If they were to double down here on hard destruction, it would be really weird. Let's see. No, Jackal, okay. It's going to make clearing out those roamers a little bit more difficult, but not impossible.
I was going to say, who on... I was trying to think of who on BDS plays Jackal. It would be one of Renshiro or Alems, because it's not Shaiko. Shaiko, especially with a Maverick band, Shaiko is going to be running likely Hibana nonstop.
Take a look. Oops.
Echo and Mira will round it out. Now, obviously, Mira being banned is very common on a map like Bank. She makes every single site easier to defend. She makes a site like Open Area far more defender-friendly than it is on its own. A lot of teams do not want to defend that site because it's so hard to pick apart.
They don't play him very often. When Jackal is available, BDS will play him 40% of the time. 4% of the time Jackal is available, Jackal gets played.
4%?
Of the time he's available. So he doesn't get played very often. He's been played a total of 6 rounds in recent history for BDS.
Very interesting, unless there's something that we don't know from scrims that Wildcard is banning Jackal.
Yeah, it could be something.
It could be recent information. It could be about maybe they only exclusively run him. I'm trying to think. I was gonna say I don't
know either.
Jackal is not really in BDS's wheelhouse for.
Not typically, no. I mean, maybe it's like a Bank specific thing. I can narrow it down. And,
he is played quite a lot on Bank in comparison, right? So
right, but by BDS, not much. Well, actually, more frequently on Bank when available. He gets played 24% of the time when available.
So there you go.
So it's just not an operator that BDS brings very often. No.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Interesting ban, but hey, it's okay. It will make roaming easier for Wildcard when they get onto defense. The thing is even if it's something that BDS doesn't play too frequently, there is something to be said about we just don't want to deal with it, and that's what Wildcard is saying with that ban. Fair enough. Now,
you think the win conditions are for Wildcard here? Let's look at the very first map on Clubhouse and then look towards Bank, the similarities that we would see and the differences that we would see between these two.
The win conditions is what you asked?
Yeah, what would you say the win conditions are, Michael? if you're the coach of Wildcard, what are the things that you need to focus on that you weren't able to do on Clubhouse?
So I'll tell you straight up, Parker, I don't think that most of the things that are going to give a win condition to Wildcard are an option anymore. It's too late. We're in the thick of it now. Wildcard's going to have to do what they can with what they have. So I would say there's definitely a cited lack of preparation specifically for BDS, for example. At least that's the way it seems to me. But also, they're struggling with gunfights. They'll need to refine that. The biggest advice, the only way I could really think to fix this in a stopgap band-aid solution is mob BDS. So when you're coming into an attack or you're coming into a defense, do everything together and try to just get as many bodies in one place as possible to just win those gunfights, because it doesn't seem like Wildcard is having a good time when it comes to just straight up winning gunfights. So yeah, more information, first of all, so you know where they're coming from, whether that be better drone work or more Valkyrie camps, and then second of all, mob BDS.
No, as you say more information, and as you said that, Marcio expanded the scoreboard as well.
Thank you, Marcio.
He said more information, and boom, it was there.
Yeah.
As if God himself descended from the heavens.
And gave Marcio that button?
Gave Marcio that button.
Thank you, Ubisoft.
Thank you, God, is what you should be saying. So.
Okay.
Wildcard have managed to clear out the main floor, and it does not look like there's anybody from BDS who dares challenge the Australian team above. But there's now somebody from BDS heading on over towards the main stairs. Obviously not the utmost confidence in that second floor, as Ethan will now head on up. Neofighter will get the opening pick, and it comes with very minimal time left, only 30 seconds. That's not much to work with. Renshiro's going to get pushed all the way back as push from Wildcard is coming into server.
Lots of damage incurred here on BDS, and as that kill comes in, there's only a little bit of time left. C4 goes out, and it's shot mid-air from the player in server. So it looks like Wildcard's got a really great execution here onto the basement. Derpe will get a kill from the drop down as Shaiko attempts to rush. Ethan adds to it. It's just Rafael now in a 1v5. Looks like a flawless round for Wildcard. So they're definitely looking much more comfortable on the bank attack, that's for sure. It's great to see that, considering what we had in the last map. It's nice to see that Wildcard came to play here at least.
Flawless round indeed. You're very correct. That's the kind of start you need from Wildcard as they put that round in the books. Ethan just so much damage. Look at that. But excellent reflexes to take down the very final member of BDS.
So much damage indeed. And very little incurred from Wildcard. Yeah, flawless round, but also limited damage actually being dished out from BDS in general. BDS really relying too much on one single C4 to deny the plant. It's not great. But also in general, just not having a lot of denial overall on that site is a bad idea. BDS is going to be bringing both a Goyo and a Clash. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. They'll rotate the Goyo into a Vigil, and that'll allow Vigil to roam, especially with the Jackal ban. He's going to be really comfortable. Lems is in his happy place if he manages to do some work off-site. You could expect him to do probably pretty well in this situation. Overall, with the lineup here from BDS, they've got more denial. They're probably going to try and hold server with the Clash, so that it's just a more extended bubble of a defense downstairs. I think that's smart, considering what happened last round, which was a really just a bog standard take from Wildcard. Yeah. Get server control, open drop downs, clear roamers, hit site from server, on default land, deny utility, done.
10 seconds remaining.
You know, there is something to be said about the change to Maestro and the way that he plays inside a garage on a map like Bank. Without the ACOG, whether you want to say that his gun is any different, he can't be employed the same way. You can't have him lying prone, watching that long angle towards garage. You can't have him sitting by that one panel inside a garage that a lot of teams shoot open, where you can see right now where Renshiro is playing. It's going to be a lot harder for him to be able to pick away at such a long angle, unless you're playing in a 4x3 resolution and you're sitting an inch away from your monitor.
Which a lot of these players are.
Yes, it's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You good. Who was it again? Was it Dan or Karzeka changes their aspect ratio depending on their optic? Maybe I'm misplacing the player, but so I know that one of the players on Empire was changing his aspect ratio. Now there's depending on whether he's using Hollow or ACOG. There is a roamer, I believe, still for BDS. Could be wrong. I don't know how effective this clear was. Can't obviously catch all of it. Hoping I can see at some point. Yeah, it looks like there is a roamer still. I believe that's yeah, it's a Lems. He's over in Lone Office, all by himself. He has an impact in his pocket in all likelihood. Can we see details? And then we can tell if he's got an impact. Yeah, he's got an impact in his pocket, which means he can explode the wall right next to him, and at any point he can flank the main stairs. RXWD is coming up those main stairs to assist in that endeavor, as you can see. He'll be calling out positions for Lems to get these kills. This is a nice setup from BDS. I like it. He also doesn't have to challenge directly from an impact hole. He can just go, you know, into the hallway. Shaiko is going to get Derpe. So there you go. Good push up the main stairs already, and they don't even need the flank.
Called in for help to assist the Clash, so RXWD providing the intel for his teammate and then it being capitalized by the Fragger. And of course, Derpe running the Hibana means that you've got one of those two Heart Breachers out of action. Who knows if all the X-Kairos have been used yet? I would assume so. Final stun is going to come out from Ethan as it batters the Clash on the main stairs, surrounded by a sea of barbed wire, but nothing can seemingly slow them down. Diesel gets caught. This is a great flank from Alems. 2 kills on server stairs, and he heads on over towards Electrical. He's utterly bamboozled Wildcard, and because of this, it's allowed breathing room for BDS to be able to push up and watch towards the server stairs. The Thatcher in hot pursuit. As it's a drop, down goes Ethan, and this might be the first flawless to flawless we've had so far in this event. It was a flawless for Wildcard in round 1, but a statement made by BDS as they get their own on round number 2.
Yeah, it was a pretty dominant one there from BDS, I gotta say. Not a whole lot to say other than Alems needed to be punished. Yeah, Alems needed to be shut down, hunted, I guess is the word you could say, but he never was. I understand he's a Vigil, I get that. But as we all clearly saw, he wasn't using his ability very much. He was just somewhere that Wildcard didn't drone.
Yeah.
And that can't be happening. Lone office is somewhere you need to be sure is clear before you attack the bomb site. Wildcard would have been in a much better spot if they had been certain of that. Because they had control of server stairs, they had control of main stairs. Wildcard was in the driver's seat there in terms of the control. Not really in terms of man count, because the Shikos push up the main stairs, but they didn't fully clear out everything. And so, despite having control of those retake bottlenecks, Wildcard still lost the round. It's not really like letting someone slip through your fingers, it's more just like not grasping the whole top floors.
It was a much better roam, and that was the one thing I was going to note after the very first round. There wasn't really a lot of play off-site by BDS, which is fine when you're looking at a Locker's defense downstairs. Right? Locker's CCTV, it's a big enough site where very similar to the first map that we saw in Clubhouse, a church, Arsenal defense downstairs. You can keep all 5 operators within that garage to Lockers to CCTV towards the elevators, etc., without giving up too much. But allowing Wildcard all that time to be able to execute and then just kind of box you in towards the back was of the sites was not ideal, and BDS obviously reacted to that right away and then made the necessary changes, and they played so much better. It's not even just that you saw the vigil of Alems go under the cover of darkness for the entirety of the round and utterly destroy that, I guess, Wildcard take on his late flank, but it was also just that Wildcard looked way less steady at being able to drone out, knowing that they were having to waste time with the clash. They didn't have full control of that first floor. And eventually, when the time got low enough, they said, we just need to take the site, and ended up biting them, so.
Teller's defense next for BDS. Not going to CEO just yet. Well, they can go whenever they're comfortable, I suppose. So far, not a lot happening here when it comes to the actual overall attack. Looks like it's going to be a square take, or box take, whatever you want to call it, or skylight take. Yep.
More of an MMA take kind of guy myself.
For those of you who don't know, underneath where you see the guy carrying the diffuser is Diesel. Underneath Diesel is what is referred to as square, but it's got a lot of different names.
Yeah, right.
Some people call it skylight because
it looks like a square.
Right, but there's so many. There's 4 skylights on this map.
Skylight, a stairwell, they will call it.
Yeah. So, which is funny because there's another skylight stairwell. Yeah. Anyway, Renchiro's gone. Emo is going to get him on the floor, and there goes one of your primary denial operators, Alems as well. And what is this? Kill after kill coming out here for both teams. A back and forth that just doesn't seem to want to stop. It's the CEO clear that is giving us these kills. Over in the main lobby in ATMs, you can see there's another player being stopped by Rafal.
This is such a hard fight for a castle to win, especially against Zolfia, yet Rafal somehow manages to do it as Diesel on the other side of the map pinches out RXWD. Both teams at the same man count, 30 seconds left. A 2v2 will set us up for one of these teams to take the lead. BDS be able to put 2 in a row. Remember, momentum for Wildcard is far more crucial than it is for BDS, especially after that stomp that we saw in the very first map. It's a 7-1 victory for BDS. Both members of Wildcard now over on main stairs. Derpe walks in, Diesel has his back, so it's Shiko in a 1v2. Has his position been spotted? Yes, it has. He gets Derpe, but it's only 1 second left on the diffuser. And it's the most infamous member of BDS to save the round. Who says the UMP is not a good gun? Shiko wins that heads-up gunfight and then also grabs one from the back. 2 for Shiko, and it's 2 rounds in a row for BDS.
Shiko wins those, and the UMP got the majority of the kills in that round, interestingly. It'll be a CEO defense next for BDS. This is the first time we've seen them go here. They've got to now after they just defended the bottom floor and Tellers. It's been a pretty decisive one so far for BDS, save for the first round, which is the same exact story we had in map number 1, remember? First round goes to Wildcard, map number 1, and then 7 rounds in a row for BDS.
Yes.
Attackers need to locate
that's when the incline just got steeper and steeper and steeper for Wildcard at that point. So Well, the one thing that you can say about the off-site clear and the roam clear from Wildcard is that it's shown signs of strength. They've been able to pick off 1 or 2 members of the defense that have been playing off-site, but then usually gets traded off. And that, as we pay a compliment to Wildcard, we have to pay a compliment to BDS and say that their ability to trade has also been quite strong.
Yes.
If Wildcard are not able to clear effectively, then I very much worry about their execute onto a site such as CEO. There's likely going to be 1 to 2 members of BDS that will be playing on that main floor. If that, once again, they could conceivably keep somebody or keep 4 members of their team within the site. CEO is a very interesting map, or a very interesting site on this map, because there's a lot that you can do with it. You can roam 4 down below. There's almost always going to be a C4 playing beneath. This is something that you need to be mindful of. So Wildcard, who struggled on their roam clear on the second round of this map, will need to be very effective this time, because they will not be able to execute knowing that every single floor and every single surface that you would go to plant on is fully destructible. Also, the square slash box slash skylight stairwell that you wanted to talk about has so much retake potential, and if you are at either a disadvantage in numbers or you don't have somebody who is good on flank watch, you are very susceptible to a retake coming from that part of the map.
So BDS is still trying to stop the players from getting out of spawn. There is something you could do. If you go into trading as a defender, you can just stop the vault down into the trading balcony by catching the attackers when they drop. That puts the attackers at an inherent disadvantage because their camera is at the top of their hitbox, whereas the enemy who's in trading can see you nice and easy. So when you're dropping, you're very exposed. The same as dropping through a hatch. So you can often delay for a pretty long time as a defensive squad just by playing and trading. At least some of the players, not all of them, mind you. North Repel, an ever-present position for Wildcard. Shaiko is going to get the lead-off kill onto Ethan, I believe. Yeah, there he goes. It's a really big kill there for Shaiko. Neo will get Shaiko, though, in response, so it's not over for Wildcard.
Worthwhile, though.
Yeah, certainly.
Worthwhile for BDS to be able to get that and open it up, especially onto Ethan, who is... Ethan and Diesel and Neo Fighter are the 3 players on Wildcard that you rest, you hang your hat on and expect them to do well in the matchup. And while Ethan was, for most of Clubhouse, the star of the show, Neo Fighter ended up eclipsing him at the end.
I mean, Neo has really been, I think this is the star here for Wildcard so far.
This is a really bold play that we see from Renshiro, positioned on the windows. There's a repel. It will now become an upside-down repel, much more challenging for the Maestro to hit. C4 from RXWD will hit itself, though, and it takes out Diesel as we watch one of those CEO wall panels get blown to pieces.
Good entry there. BDS will be able to hold this out, though, if they play their cards right. Rafael will get to Derpe, and that's going to be more of him playing his cards right.
I'm going to send you a speech therapist.
No. That's a nice repel in from Emo, and he's going to get some good control from the window room. It's not going to be enough to actually get the plant down. In the last 10 seconds, Wildcard is going to have to go for this plant, and that means there's only 1 to cover in this 2v2. RXWD is on low HP, so that's one at least good thing for Wildcard. Castle Barricade not fully prepped, and Neo's going to get RXWD because of that, though. Lems is still alive. He'll land a nice shot onto Neo in the post plant. Last attacker, not known, though. You can see Lems is looking for that last player. That's Emo on the other side of the Castle Barricade. Shotgun, soft destruction, sees the enemy, lands the shot. Beautiful for Lems, and he's got plenty of time. Doesn't need to do anything special. Lems wins those, and BDS will keep their streak alive.
Wow, absolutely masterful play, and I mean, there was a lot of questions raised when Lems was brought onto this BDS roster, but as he has settled in, I think he's been able to silence most of those critics. A lot of long faces that we see from Wildcard, knowing that their best chance at a victory just evaporated in front of their very eyes. BDS is slowly establishing a stranglehold over Wildcard on this map. It is BDS's map. Didn't really matter who picked what, as Clubhouse was the map for Wildcard, and well, didn't really do all that much.
It's not over yet, but it's this kind of weird. You ever get that weird feeling like it almost feels over, even though it's not? You have those? I kind of felt that way in match number 1 when we casted it earlier. Was Rogue versus TSM. And spoilers, I guess, but Rogue
Cover your ears.
won map number 1 pretty decisively. And this overwhelming sense of dread kind of set in where TSM were looking, just defeated.
Yeah.
And then suddenly TSM start to come alive in map number 2, so maybe that's, going to happen here for Wildcard. It's not done yet. It's only 3 rounds for BDS. But that last round, for example, is the type of round that changes that momentum, that shifts things more securely in your team's favor. And Elem's clutching up big there.
5 seconds left.
That's pretty much... It's not going to decide the match, but it will certainly sway the confidence of a lot of these players. I always think that's really relevant in a game like Siege. You got to be confident.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like Wildcard are.
No, I mean, you saw the faces yourself. They were dejected, to say the least. And I mean, I can imagine why. You come in with a lot of confidence. The scrim reports on Wildcard were all very positive. A lot of people that I had spoken with said that they were actually playing quite well, and teams were surprised with how much of a challenge Wildcard was providing them in these scrims. Now, obviously, we don't know much else outside of that. We can just speak with the teams in private and get a general feel for who's doing what, how people are doing, etc. But yeah, there was a belief that Wildcard was a sleeper pick in this tourney, and given the fact that BDS had some struggles in EU Pro League, this is a group where there's a lot of question marks with Reciprocity and G2 being in it as well. I think there were a lot of teams in other groups that felt that Wildcard had a significant chance of actually being able to make it out, especially if the same team that played Na'Vi showed up. But I think the answer so far is, has that team shown up? It's no.
Good timing on that clear there from the double EMP for Neo. That's to be sure that no Electroclaws can deny the wall, drops getting opened. There is no Electroclaw, and you and I know that, Parker. All the viewers, you know that. But these players on attack, they don't necessarily know that, with the 6 pick being a thing. Drops open though. Wildcard can rest assured they don't have to worry about that anymore. They can apply a lot of pressure to the site now. Clash is going to be able to make its way back as Clash. Don't have to worry about anybody shooting you when you've got a shield that covers pretty much 180 degrees directly in front of you.
Wildcard were not very proficient at being able to knock RXWD off of the main stairs. If you recall, Shaiko was brought into the aid of the Clash and was able to pick up 1 member of Wildcard. And as all of Ethan's utility was used, those stuns did not much. Now there's still 2 stuns left, but this time Ethan is not focused on the Clash, at least not now. Here goes 1 bit of soft destruction. He'll move over and maybe head towards the Clash, but has been called elsewhere. You can hear the tasers on the main stairs as Derpe will watch. Shaiko's within striking distance too to see if the Zofia will return to the hatch that was opened up. Shield knocked away as RXWD doesn't take any damage. Shaiko does though from an engagement over towards the server. This is a long angle to play for the smoke of Rafal, but a perfect toss for him as he'll be able to throw out one of those toxic canisters. He's only got 1 left though, so he'll be utility starved very quickly with only 20 seconds remaining. Plant from Diesel going down, and it doesn't seem like anybody knows he's halfway through. He'll be able to soldier through this. He'll likely die for his team, but he gets the diffuser off and finished by Rafal, but it's a brief miss from BDS, and the fight that ensues afterwards will be extraordinary between these teams. Shaiko, the only one from BDS down. RXWD pushing up. Down goes Derpe. 2 remaining members of Wildcard. They'll play farther back. There's a Claymore to catch Rafal. Imorin and Neophyter will just simply wait. Both SAS members. Imorin sits inside of server. Where will the Thatcher appear? Shield out. You can stop and protect a Lems. There's a Lems winning the fight. They just need to find the Thatcher who's playing above at the hatch. A lot of noise being made from the Maestro. He swings around. No, he misses the shots. And as the diffuser's going down, an embarrassing finish, but BDS are able to stick with it, and they will go up 4-1 over Wildcard.
It's feeling very over now, as that was a pretty hefty choke there for Wildcard. Pretty solid. After the diffuser went down, you'd think that it would be done deal. Not so. A couple of things to note, in particular, on how that choke happened, what went down to result in it turning the way of BDS. The biggest thing is the hold on the main staircase by Derpe. He wide swung on an aggressive Clash, and you never do that. It's going to leave you exposed. You've got no cover. There's going to be someone else with a gun behind the Clash, and you're going to die. He could have repositioned over to Tellers, used the hole that he made in the wall earlier to try and hold the main stairs. Or he could have tried to consolidate his efforts, bring himself over to square, maybe try and hold from there, deny the flank of the players in server so that his defenders can hold, or the rest of his teammates can hold in the post lane. But he didn't. He played it about as poorly as it could have been played in that situation. That's not all, though. There was more. Just some heads-up gunfights going the way of BDS, of course. As the plant went down, of course, they lost the planter to the gas canister. And that's not on the planter. That's he made a calculated risk, and it paid off. It worked for him. He got that plant down. That's the most important thing. But the biggest thing is that there was also another player lost right after to, I believe, Shaiko. And that might have been by the main stairs, might have been by the actual plant, whatever it was. It's another little bit of manpower lost. And then the main stairs hold dead, and your post-plant holder in server can't win a single gunfight on any of the people trying to retake. On top of that, you've got the player in janitor. And this is the linchpin, you know, this is the big thing for Wildcard. They've got someone in janitor, and that actually, I thought, was very smart. I'm like, okay, yeah, the drop down is open, I believe, and so you can hold the post plant from there, no problem. Don't have to worry about the flank because they're not going to see you, they're not going to expect you. But then, really bad timing, I guess, and you didn't see the Maestro, and that's round over. Lots of layers, lots of things that resulted in that being a bit of a choke there from Wildcard, but it was a bit of a choke. That's the end of the story.
There's a castle barricade with some of that hard destruction being used here by Wildcard. We're in the very final defense for BDS. On a very competitive map like Bank, there is no real advantage to defense or attack. It often comes down to the way the teams play. Are you aggressive? Are you thorough? Are you patient? What are the operator bans? That is a much bigger determining factor as to whether you can run up the score here on this map. Very different from a map like Clubhouse. Renshiro gets downed, but it's Rafal who's able to take out Imorin, so the first pick technically goes to BDS, though it's 2 for Ethan inside of the lobby. All right. The UMP from Shaiko is there to take out Derpe. So once again, a 3v3. So it tends to be a wonderful phenomenon in Rainbow Six where 1 kill comes and then 3 kills immediately follow it, or 2 kills immediately follow it to a 3v3 or to a 2v2.
Yeah, it's just players and teams not willing to let go of the momentum or the refrags or whatever it may be. In this case, no one coming out on top just yet. Ethan's pressuring Tellers, maybe pushing his luck. He's alone right now. It's a big risk to make those plays when you're all alone like that. You can see that Diesel's going to try and open up this wall. He's got a mute jammer on the other hand, on the other side rather, so he's not going to be able to open the wall. But he can go shoot that. Nice and easy. Oh, and he missed. Second time's charm.
Very apprehensive of the punch hole that will look right at him. He's got Ethan now by his side. It seems like the mute jammer's been taken care of. It could have been Ethan to rotate from his position, but regardless, that explosive sound is almost unmistakable as the exothermic charge goes off. Now a breach round expended from Ethan to open up the wall as the members of BDS will sit just a little bit farther back. That SMG-11, it's been Alems who's been spotted out. Engaging with the UMP, but losing the fight. That's why that gun isn't exactly the favorite of everybody else. Neofighter wins the fight against Shaiko. Down goes the IQ to Alems. He beheads Neofighter. We're in the crucial moments now of this round where Ethan picks up a triple kill. You're gonna have to win this, Alems. You only got a couple bullets left. Where's the diffuser? Is it being planted? Yes, it is. Long-range engagement, shotgun out, but it's Wildcard to salvage the round. Alems did not know how to play that in his target management, or his target priority could have been a little better. Wildcard managed to get it at the end. They'll take their second round.
So the streak is ended, only 4 in a row for BDS. And a 4-2 is not particularly bad, actually. Wildcard could come back from that. It's definitely not over just yet. That last round, all right, it's a decently interesting one. The biggest thing that I would call into question was the way that the reinforcements were played out there for BDS. Instead of reinforcing the Teller's wall, they reinforced the wall leading to loan office from garage hallway, or sorry, no, elevator hallway. And that's all well and good. The reason they did that is because they also opened up the other Teller's wall that leads to the hallway by main stairs. Totally viable strategy. The only thing is that it got opened up. The wall was eventually opened up. Things that could have helped with that, maybe a Kaid instead of a mute. You could put the electrical on a more difficult spot to shoot, possibly. Maybe even above. I don't know. Haven't tested that one yet, but it's possible. What we do know is that once that wall was opened up and loan office was played from Wildcard, they cut off the rotation of the players in the main hallway. They were allowed to use the main hallway, Wildcard was, to then leverage control of the site away from BDS. And there wasn't a lot of answer back for BDS. That's the big thing. They didn't have much control elsewhere that is going to allow denial of a push-in and a plant from Tellers.
5 seconds to go.
So that's exactly what Wildcard gave us. They cut off the rotation, pushed in through the site, planted the diffuser, done. BDS kept in lockstep in terms of frags with Wildcard through that round, but they didn't keep in lockstep in terms of control.
The one thing that I think is being overshadowed by BDS's scoreline right now is that Wildcard managed to pull off 4 executes. 4 diffusers got planted by Wildcard, and it only mattered in 2 of those rounds. That's pretty incredible.
Now 4 is the type of number where you start to look at it and you go, Wildcard are clearly practicing specifically based around objective play.
Yeah.
And I admire that.
I mean, the retakes, those 2 retakes in particular, one of which was Tellers and the other was, or one of which, sorry, was CEO and the other was Lockers, were exceptional. And then keep in mind, round number 3, there was a second away from that diffuser getting planted yet again when Shaiko was in that 1v2. So that would have been 5 diffusers going down of 6 rounds. So Wildcard are clearly a much better practice team on Bank than they are on Clubhouse. They might have just simply needed some time to get warmed up. Obviously, they still have a very uphill battle against BDS. This round and the next round are going to be crucial for Wildcard. They start on defense, they're downstairs, they're bringing a lot of gadgets that will require heavy utility usage from BDS. They will need to soak up most of the gadgetry that you see from BDS. You've got a Goyo, you've got Evil Eye Cams, Pests, Castle Barricades. The only operator that is going to be there to stall and not soak up utility is going to be Diesel, but he's playing on server stairs, so he's going to be there to soak up utility anyway, because you're going to need to use a lot of it to try to push him out. All of his toxic canisters have been expended, so somebody needs to begin to push the smoke. There goes the drop hatch, so the protection from the smoke, should he retreat from this position, is gone. Now goes Neofighter to RXWD, and they're just waiting for the smoke to swing out. It's the Buck in the main line of sight. Alems will just hold that doorway, and if the smoke tries to go from the bottom of server stairs, he's as good as dead. Meanwhile, all the members of Wildcard are falling around them. There goes Emorin. Still the smoke persists. Will he retake? No, he actually wins the fight. He pushes on out, and Diesel claims Alems. Down goes RXWD to Ethan, so Wildcard still have a pulse on them, but there's 40 seconds left. This round is eerily close to being finished. Rafal's been down 2, so it's essentially a 2v2, Michael.
Lots of pressure being applied to B. There's Ethan gone. Just on Diesel now. Now he doesn't have diffuser. Renshiro's going to have that, and he's going to go for the plant inside of Lockers. Meanwhile, Shaiko will be covering. Diesel has to be aware of this at this point. He's going to relocate. He'll be able to drop into the other site, but he needs to retake the actual bomb site. Might try to do this from somewhere different. The hallway drop will be certain doom, in all likelihood. It's the most likely for him to die before he even hits the floor. Looks like he's going for site drop. Very little time left. A little indecisive onto where he wants to actually drop down, and he'll die to Shaiko on a long angle. BDS will take the first attacking round of the second half.
They really, really needed that. They really needed this to be able to keep their momentum up. Objective play has been great for both of these teams now. We've had a diffuser planted. There was really only one round where it wasn't even close, and that was round number 2. So these teams are very execute-heavy teams when you look at Bank. It is not a frag fest like you'd expect. I mean, Bank can be played a lot of different ways. We talked about this going back to the CEO defense in round number 4, where some teams can be really aggressive, some teams can peek everything, some teams can open up entire walls and lines of sight and just engage fights. Some of them will have lots of stall tactics, and others will just sit and wait and be very patient. It's very clear that these teams are very patient. They are playing a methodical and obviously well-planned out style that revolves around the execute and how teams handle the post-plant.
Post-plant has been really interesting. We've seen so many of them, so that's the even more interesting part about it. We didn't actually get to see the majority of the take there in that last round because most of what we saw was centered around server. We saw from Diesel, in particular, a really great hold on the server staircase. He managed to deny the push into the staircase for a solid amount of the round, but his teammate inside of server was of no help, unfortunately for Diesel and Wildcard.
10 seconds.
So eventually Shaiko and BDS as a whole, they all got control of the server and were allowed to push into the site. The bigger thing though is, and again we didn't see this, but
defuse a bomb.
whatever happened over by the actual like lockers, by the main stairs, the garage maybe, I'm not sure. Whatever happened over there, well, that was interestingly very decisively in the favor of BDS. I'm guessing maybe a drop from one of the back drop downs, like the vault drop down or the elevator drop down or something along those lines. And then, or just to push down the main stairs. Either way, BDS leveraged it to site control, and the lack of being able to, well then, not being able to kill Diesel on server stairs didn't end up actually mattering in the end. Cost BDS a lot.
He just was wasting tons of time, but then the rest of BDS decided, let's just go elsewhere. And you know, they hunted down the players that were inside a server, down over by garage, as you pointed out, and they just essentially encircled the site with the exception of the buck of Alems and the thermite of Rafal. That was it. Everybody else was clearly doing their job. So very well played to BDS for the way that they were able to put together an attack where they flushed out the remaining members of Wildcard and negated the strength that a smoke has, holding one of the main avenues. That's a beautiful nade tossed on in, and now the castle is next on deck as Emorin walks over the corpse of Diesel. There's another frag grenade, but below Alems with 2 of them! Oh my goodness gracious, that is a beautiful play. 2 frags, 2 kills, you couldn't ask for a better result than that. And Alems has blown this round wide open, and match point is BDS's for the taking.
All they need to do is keep that momentum going, and it looks like it's going to happen as Alems gets his 3rd kill, this time with the gun. It's going to be an answer back, though, from Wildcard before BDS can lock it out, and there you go. Match point, 4K for Alems, and, well, it's certainly seeming a whole lot like a 2-0 at this point.
Alems has been unequivocally the star of the show here in this matchup, and
oh yeah, big time.
Just absolutely overpowering every single thing that gets thrown his way. Wildcard, I don't know if you're going to take your time out. They haven't taken one just yet. I would suspect that we're going to see it, and yes, indeed, it looks like Wildcard will take their, or BDS actually might be taking their tactical timeout.
No, Wildcard.
Oh, there you go.
A little bit of indecision there, but it turns out it's Wildcard.
It's a Wildcard timeout.
Makes a lot more sense considering the situation. Of course, both teams are going to have a little bit of pause to think about what they want to do. But Wildcard, I don't know. Last time they called a timeout, what did they do? They rushed.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. I don't think they're going to do that again. But maybe. I mean, could do. It wouldn't work, that's for sure.
No, BDS is likely going to play their same style, so expect the same operator lineup of that Buck, Thermite, IQ, Thatcher, Hibana.
Yeah.
But, we
haven't really seen much variance. We saw a little bit. They were bringing IQ a couple of those rounds.
That was for Wildcard. Wildcard actually broke up their attack a little bit, not that much.
Yeah. I mean, there really hasn't been much to say about a lot of these rounds.
Yeah.
Because, unfortunately, the way that it's playing out, BDS is clearly in the driver's seat, if I can put it like that, I guess. Wildcard are struggling to put up a fight right now.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten 2 rounds, which is pretty good, but it's definitely not the performance they're looking for, of course. I wonder what Wildcard is going to bring out here on this defense of the bottom floor. I wonder what their strategy is going to be. And I wonder how they're going to try and stop this train that BDS is on right now, because it's not looking very easy to stop.
No, it's not where they want to be. I think that's exactly what we could say from Wildcard. Of course, the G2 reciprocity matchup is happening on the other Rainbow Six channel right now, so if you'd like to mosey on over there and watch it, or watch both of them at the same time, feel free to do so. Wildcard, should they fall short in this matchup against BDS, which right now it seems like that is the higher likelihood than them prevailing, they will face off against the loser of G2 Rec. This is the thing. There's no good match that you want. It's not like you lose and you're like, oh, okay, there's a freebie. These are 16 extraordinary teams, and you're not going to have an easy match, even if you lose.
Yeah, I mean, Wildcard are putting up a heck of a fight. Even if BDS are winning it, they aren't all close rounds.
On bank, yes.
I'm sorry, they aren't all one-sided rounds. And yeah, on bank. The last map was a lot more one-sided.
Yes. There has been lots of potential here, and a couple of these rounds really could have gone either way. The 6-2 scoreline is a bit deceptive. The 7-1 scoreline was far more accurate on Clubhouse. But no, here on Bank on map number 2, it's very obvious that Wildcard are either more comfortable just in a match setting, maybe they needed to get into a certain mindset, maybe they needed to warm up. Who knows? That's just speculation on our part. But regardless, there's a lot more confidence that's being played. There's a lot more due diligence that we see from Wildcard, and they are committing the steps needed to be a strong team on Bank. This is a very strat-heavy, very deliberate map.
Speaking of due diligence, I really like to see what we're seeing from BDS. They are thoroughly clearing out the top 2 floors before they apply pressure to the bomb site. You gotta love that. And here is that control in full display. Someone's on drone, and the mark will come out. There goes Amurin. Control of the server stairs now well established. Was that a UMP? That was a UMP castle trying to hold the top of server stairs. That's just about the worst kind of situation you could be in. Like, that's not a good operator or gun to hold that position.
Now, really rough spot. Maybe a castle shotgun? I feel like we've seen those before.
Yeah, castle shotgun should work there. It's not a good shotgun, but it could work there.
It possibly could. You usually want a shotgun in that position, or even a Jaeger with a carbine. The Mozzie will toy for a brief moment with RXWD on the main stairs. Another pick for BDS might be too much for Wildcard to muster, and then the overrun that would come would simply just trample anybody playing on the site. There's going to be a Mozzie Pest that might stop the drone work of BDS, but no, it's very well navigated.
Poorly placed Pest there.
I don't know if RXWD spotted the extraordinarily long gun barrel of Derpe inside of Garage, but anyway, you've got this joint push that's coming. Now Derpe has indeed been spotted. As he's getting droned out in Garage, he gets pinged, another kill for RXWD. Shaiko's there and Wildcard are not even putting up much of a fight. Derpe isolated, it's Shaiko to get him. Diesel gets one, but Diffuser goes down. Objective play still continuous, and it's Mr. Shaiko himself. Of course, the star of BDS, whose name you will know, to propel his team in that very final round. They put Wildcard away really fast. Wildcard will have to shuffle the deck tomorrow against the loser of G2 versus Reciprocity, but BDS are 1 win away from winning their group.
That was a pretty one-sided event. Wildcard, obviously disappointed after that result. I don't really have much to say in terms of, to their favor. That was definitely not a lot shown from Wildcard.
Yeah.
They had a couple interesting rounds. They made some smart decisions. I like, for example, on Clubhouse. Cool ban on Thermite makes sense with the way that they set up. But it's still, they had no actual control of the Jacuzzi wall, and obviously the Jacuzzi wall is going to be your weakest link, considering how they were set up by Cash. So, I don't know, it was like a decently well thought out match from Wildcard, just not fully fleshed out, and they need to work on that.
I mean, if you're a team like Wildcard, you have very minimal LAN. I mean, BDS has even less LAN experience if you're really thinking about it. BDS.
Yeah, I guess.
BDS did not have the same amount of experience in a big international stage. They've never made a Pro League Finals like Wildcard has. Wildcard's only made one, though. It could have just simply been that Wildcard needed time to warm up. Now, the team that showed up for them in Bank was a significantly better team than we saw in Clubhouse. I don't think there's any other way you can argue against that. But there were just so many opportunities for Wildcard to just do better in terms of things like aiming. That was a beautiful kill by Alems, by the way.
Yeah, he knew.
But, on Clubhouse, how many times did Wildcard lose not even a fight that they were engaged in, but one that they had their backs or sides turned? On Bank, it was a lot fairer of a contest when it came to head-to-head gunfights, but they were slower than BDS. They were slower, they didn't have the same confidence, they didn't have that same moxie, and with it, they just lost way too many fights. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just need to settle in and be more confident in how aggressive they can be and how they engage, because you saw that Na'Vi match in Tokonami, yeah, it was a couple months ago. Maybe Wildcard's taken a step back, but they were being very aggressive. They were being wild with the way that they played, and they were just absolutely slicing through Na'Vi with so much confidence that wasn't there against BDS.
And let's give credit to BDS. They played really well, solid, nothing too crazy or out of the box, nothing too spontaneous, just solid, good Siege gameplay. And some really nice unison strategy, so like people working with each other to lock someone on a wildcard into a position and then get the kill from below with a nade, for example, or get the kill from like the bottom of server stairs and they come together. It's good teamwork on BDS, really solid teamwork.
Now, we have the bracket ready for you, and we'll show you what's happening right now. The other matchup at the top, G2 Esports versus Team Reciprocity. It is ongoing. G2 took map number 1, as you can see. Map number 2 is currently underway on twitch.tv/Rainbow6 or on any of the other streaming platforms that we are broadcasting live on. It's very surprising because I would imagine that their second map probably just started, given how fast this BDS versus Wildcard match that we were in was.
Oh yeah.
BDS will await the victor of G2 and Team Reciprocity, and then of course, as you can see, they will advance to the playoffs depending on who wins in that matchup tomorrow. As for Wildcard, they flew an awful long way. Are we about to see their chances just come to an end? They've got one more match tomorrow, possibly. They're going to play Reciprocity versus G2. No matter what, it's going to be a very tough contest, and if this Wildcard showed up, well, I don't know how well they're going to be able to do against any team that's currently at this tournament.
Well, what we do know is that's it for us for now, and there are still more matches to be played on this stream, 2 more, in fact, for the day, and you can stick around for that. For now, we're going to toss over to Stream A, and you can watch that game that's still going on over there.